Yay. All right. We're very excited about this workshop. This is something that we all care deeply about and just want to thank you all for being here. I'm Mary Jo McGuire, County Commissioner District 2. We're going to start by going around the room and seeing and saying who's here, and then we'll get into some opening remarks. But thanks. So I already said me, so
Nicole Freda, Board District 1.
Rafael Ortega, Commissioner, District 5.
Mai Chang, County Commissioner for District 6.
Victoria Reinhardt, Commissioner, District 7.
Trista Martinson, Commissioner, District 3.
Yvonne Dur, Deputy Director, Communications and Public Relations.
Rose Lindsay, Director, Communications and Public Relations.
Karen Francois, Deputy County Manager for Information and Public Records.
Joanna Bird, County Manager. Rena Moran, County Commissioner, District 4.
excellent.
Good morning, Mike Lindsay, Volunteer Services Coordinator based in Communications and Public Relations.
Hello, Chris Burns, Communications Manager, Health and Wellness.
Morning, John Lewis, Communications Manager, Economic Growth and Community Investment.
Hi, Megan Fournier, Communications Manager, Information Public Records Service Team, Internal and Strategic Team. I'm Christine Grinnell, I'm on the Communication Leadership Team and I support social media and updates. New Turn, Chief Clark.
Scott Williams, Deputy County Manager for Safety and Welfare Services.
Leon Omar, Community Associate for Work Consultants. And Pavlish, Graphic Designer.
Jan Roberts, President and CEO, Ramsey County Historical Society.
Becky Secura, County Manager's Office. Alex, Associate Financial. Kathy Levine, Deputy County Manager, Health and Wellness. Thank you, and we have Commissioner McGuire, District 2.
All right. Great to have you all here. Thanks. Thanks so much. We all know that strong communication leads to increased community confidence. We all know that, and trust and lack of communication can lead to misinformation, mistrust, and unequitable distribution of resources and power. So we know that communication is crucial to the work that we do. So today we're going to hear an update from our Communications and Public Relations Department on the work that we do each and every day in partnership with county departments to ensure that critical programs and resources are reaching deep into community. And we're also excited to hear about some exciting new projects underway in 2024, including a new pilot the Communications and Public Relations Department is launching to reach community where they are at with county news and information. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy County Manager, Karen Francois, to start us off, and then we'll hear from all of you. So thanks again for being here and for putting together this great presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. It is very exciting to be here. Our team hasn't presented before you for a while, so we're very gracious and grateful that you are allowing us to come and talk with you today. On the agenda for today, we will be doing an overview of the department. We'll take a brief look at budget. We'll look at our team and services that we provide. We'll also be receiving partner updates today. We'll look there at the work that is and an update on 4-H and of course our Historical Society. We'll be providing highlights for 2023, including an update on our award-winning data portal. And if you haven't been there lately, go and take a look at workforce statistics. That report is up. It looks great. I really appreciate our data portal team. We'll also be, as our chair said, we'll be looking at some major projects for 2024 that includes our website replatforming, as well as the fabulous new project that we'll be talking about today. And our presenters are Rose Lindsay, who has already, these guys have already introduced themselves. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Rose.
Thank you so much. Board Commissioners, Deputy County Manager Francois, we are super honored to be here. I've actually been with the county 15 months now, so over the 1 year mark, and Deputy Director Enduro has been with the county 8 months, so we're both excited to be here and give this update. And we are very honored to lead this work alongside a very talented team, many who are in the room with us right now, and many who are actually watching online as they continue to push the work forward. We all know that information is power, and that's the power to access resources that can impact health, housing, jobs, overall economic well-being and livability. And we take this really seriously, and are always looking for ways to make content more engaging, more accessible, and finding ways to meet people where they are. And so we're really privileged to work with all of the other departments to do this work. And today we're excited to share updates from 2023 and some new ways we want to take this work further to really meet community where they are. So we will, if the slides are going to work with me, dive right into it here. So our department has an annual budget of just over 3 million. That is a staff of 25 full-time equivalents. And that includes 3 positions that you all helped us add to our team and that we're in the process of hiring right now. It also includes 2 limited durations that I want to call out. While they're not part of our full-time equivalent count, they are very important to us in doing really great work in the areas of substance abuse and continuing the work in public health and COVID. And so wanted to name those limited duration positions as well. With our media relations manager position that we're hiring soon, this was so important to us because in the past, our media relations was done by managers, the deputy director and myself, which put us really in more of a reactive stance. And with this dedicated position, we are going to be able to be much more proactive. And when we complete good work, be able to tell about that good work. And so not just always responding to media inquiries as they come in. We're also going to be able to really focus on community and cultural media and deepen those relationships. Ask those media entities, what do they want to hear from the county and how do they want to hear from the county, which might not be a press release or a media advisory in English. They might want to hear from us in different ways that will finally have the dedicated staff to really grow those relationships and meet them where they are. We have an amazing graphic designer. She's in the room here now. You saw her at the board meeting this morning taking photos. But truly, the work has grown so much, and beyond just designing creative assets and social media and campaigns, there's a lot of work in signage for our service centers, for our parks, wrapping vans. And so we really are thankful that we now will have a second position that will help us catch up. We really need to catch up to the work. And also we have more and more requests to do things in other languages. And so we're grateful that we're going to be hiring this position and welcoming them to the team really soon here. And then the third new position that you all supported us with is a website specialist. The other counties, both smaller and larger than us, actually have somewhere between 2 and 6 dedicated positions. And this will be our first dedicated position right at the time where we're re-platforming the website. So we're very grateful for this position. And we also will be hiring this person really soon, right at the time where we're about to begin this really big project. So we're very grateful for all of these positions. This is how our department is organized, which is kind of mirroring the service teams across the county. So we have a manager over health and wellness, economic growth and community investment, information and public records. And then we have communications associates that support each of those teams. We also have an open data and social media team. We're growing our public relations team, which will be that new media relations manager, our volunteer services work, and this new program we're going to tell you about. You'll notice on here, however, we don't have safety and justice. It's not because we don't support safety and justice. It's just because we don't quite have a one-to-one model with each of our departments that we support. And so both the sheriff's office and the county attorney's office do have an embedded public information officer that helps with media inquiries. And then Deputy Director Enduro supports the other safety justice work, such as appropriate responses, the bail reform work, and other requests that those departments have. So we're always looking at ways that our team can be reflective of the community, because we understand, as I said, information is power. Meeting community where they are is really powerful, and that starts with who we are as a team. So we got to meet some of the Young Adult Career Academy folks earlier this morning, and we in our department got to host some of those folks last year, because we really believe inviting young folks into our team helps us not only be creative, but more and more reflective of the community we serve. So we are always looking for opportunities to have interns, and we just, in the photo before you, there's a young man in the middle. You cannot miss his giant smile. Pierre Young just completed a progressive internship with our team, and now he has moved on to be a job coach with College Possible. And so we're in progress of looking for our next progressive intern. And on his right, there is a young woman, Ayan Omar, who's in this room as well. Ayan started with us as a progressive intern and then became a limited duration employee in a couple different positions. And I'm very proud to say that she wanted to continue her journey with the county and became a permanent communications associate for Workforce just this December. And now is on the panel helping us find the next progressive intern. We also hope to bring a right track intern. So we're always looking for ways to find those opportunities and want folks to have communications careers in government. So we really are the strategic partners for all the departments. We consider ourselves that in-house communications agency. And when departments come to us with a new program or initiative, we really start by asking, what's your goal? Who are you trying to serve? What audiences? And what are your key messages? Realizing that might be different for every audience they're trying to reach. We ask about the timeline. Do they have budget? And then through that, we use all the different channels the county manages, and then sometimes channels beyond the county to figure out a campaign for them. Sometimes that campaign, honestly, is a flyer or a social post. Other times it's a big comprehensive campaign, depending on those goals we set together. So we manage our internal communications, our public communications, website, social media, e-newsletters, signs, both digital, static, the open data portal. We manage the public relations, our volunteer services. Cultural radio is going to be that new program that we talk about. When crises occur, we also support the communications through that. And then we have a couple big partnerships that we manage on behalf of the county, including one for the University of Minnesota Extension and Ramsey County Historical Society. And Chad is with us from the Historical Society today. So we're going to lead with some of those partnerships first. So the University of Minnesota 4-H Youth Development Program is one that the county has an annual support of $180,000. Up to 2023, that program was through communications and public relations. Through conversations, we learned that it would be better and more easy for the University of Minnesota to actually have their two separate MOUs combined into one MOU, one memorandum of understanding. And both were ending at the end of 2023. So we got together with public health, environmental health, and we combined the two MOUs into one that began in 2024. So now all of this great work for youth, kindergarten through high school, of which 47% is actually science, technology, engineering, and math programming, will be moving over to environmental health to lead that programming alongside the Master Gardener programming. So communications will still support by helping get the word out about Farm Family of the Year and all of these opportunities, but no longer will the staff for these 4-H have to go to communications for some admin things and go to master gardening for other admin things. So we streamlined to make this easier for everybody involved. So that's kind of the one big change we wanted to add here.
Excuse me, yeah. So of course, I'm gonna ask you about that master gardening thing. Is that also in statute here too, that you have to use that word? Because I know there's a lot of community folks who are gardeners and, you know, who are trying their best, who do not use that language and would like, you know, the county to move away from it too. So is that in statute too, or could you use some other language?
Commissioner McGuire, Commissioner Moran, thank you for that great question. And I agree with you on the language. And as I was even putting these slides together, I had a hard time putting those words in there. I will take that recommendation and question back to environmental health, who manages that program, and make that recommendation to see if it is something that's in statute or it's a simple language update that could be changed. This work is not in communications and public relations, but I will take that recommendation back because I couldn't agree with you more that that language should be updated and changed for the harmful nature of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that note.
Thank you.
Gonna write that down.
Yes, we
Um,
should make the University of Minnesota, I mean, this is used all over the country, we should get them to change it.
And it has to start somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
right,
So
right,
hopefully at this
right.
table today.
We are giving them $180,000, so, you know,
Absolutely.
and we should.
The second partnership that we have that is through communications and public relations is with the Historical Society. And we have 2 agreements with them for different things. One is for tours right here in the courthouse, as well as curation of exhibit cases in our basement. And so last year, through just under $10,000, Ramsey County Historical Society did over 61 tours between the courthouse and Union Depot. And that doesn't include the virtual tours. And so during the pandemic, these virtual tours were created. If you haven't seen them online, they are amazing and gorgeous and a great way to take a look at the building. Very accessible because you can do it from anywhere and really get just a gorgeous look into the building and history right from the comfort of your home or your office or wherever you are. So that's one program that we have. The second one is we offer support to the Ramsey County Historical Society for just over $87,000, and that funds 60 different public programs for adults and families across the county. This includes Gibbs Farm, which is doing programming for over 15,000 students a year, and over half of that programming is Dakota programming. There are currently bills to expand out Gibbs Farm to make this a more year-round programming so that the building can have folks there year-round. And something that is very exciting for Ramsey County Historical Society this year is it is the 75th anniversary of the Historical Society and our relationship with Ramsey County Historical Society. So once they get past May and kind of know how those bills are going to be coming out, they will have a more robust plan on how they plan to celebrate this milestone anniversary. All right, moving into some of the highlights from the work that we do directly in the county. I want to begin with our communications for employees, because we know when employees feel they know what's going on with their employer, they feel valued, that's when they can show up and do their most important work for the community, right? So we have the honor and privilege to work with all departments to get information and resources to employees. The 2 main vehicles we use are the internal website, the intranet, which we call Ramsey Net, and then a weekly newsletter that's actually published every Tuesday. So we can take information from board meetings and workshops and put it in that newsletter. It's called Ramsey News. And we have shared with you today some of the top content, which will be no surprise. It's usually benefits, it's usually new policies, things that are really impactful to employees. And what I'm really proud of is that our top stories get over 1,200 views and an average of 2 minutes and 25 seconds engagement, When you think about this day and age where we flip through our phones and have a 5 to 7 second attention span, that's a really high engagement of our top stories, right? And they don't usually have cute cats and kittens in them. This is our news and information. So really proud of our team and the work that goes into that. So now I'm going to pause and turn it over to Deputy Director Enduro, who's going to take us through some of the more public-facing communications we manage.
Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner McGuire, Commissioners, County Manager, Deputy County Manager Francoise, and Director Lindsay. Before I get into the enterprise-wide social media, I'd like to spend a little bit of time walking us through some of the metrics that we track. As a government entity, one of our core focus is to provide information and to keep our residents informed on our programs, our services, as well as provide education, and as in times of crises is to let them know how to get support and how to get help. However, it's also important that we are on the same page when we're discussing some of our social media metrics. And so some of the key metrics that we focus on, there are lots of, if I may take a step back, there are lots of metrics out there. As a government entity, these are some of the ones that we specifically focus on because they're important for us as a government entity to focus on these. So the first one I will take you through is impressions. So an impression is the number of times our content is displayed, regardless of whether the resident or the person clicks on it or not. It is just displayed, they just see it. So for example, when you're on LinkedIn and you're doing your own social media, there are lots of content that will come across your screen. So long as you skim through it, that is counted as an impression. The importance is that it gives us an idea of how many people our content is reaching. And so this is really a measure of visibility. The second metric I'd like to walk us through is reach. And this is the number of unique users who see our post. And again, the importance of this is that it indicates the spread of our content and how effectively it is penetrating our target audience. So impression and reach may sometimes come across as very similar. And so it's important to know that impression measures how often our content is displayed. So as an individual on my social media, I will see the same ad 15 times, and that will be counted as 15 different impressions. But I am one unique individual viewing the content 15 times, so the reach is 1. The other piece that I'd like to walk us through is engagement. And this varies depending on, again, your social media strategy. Engagement is very important for us as a county because it.
Are we taking questions?
Yes,
Wait,
we're taking questions
All right, I'll let you finish your thought.
I'll finish your thought and then we'll call on.
Sure. So engagement is the number of times that people have interacted with our content. So this is the likes, if they like it, if they comment, if they share it. So that is what we measure as engagement. And again, this is really important for us as a county because it indicates the relevance and the resonance of our content with our community.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Commissioner Martin.
Thank you, and thank you, Eve, that's really helpful on the, like, how we count this. But looking at these numbers overall, given that we have more than 500,000 people in Ramsey County, let's even say half of them are in social media, these are really low numbers. And the quality of what's posted is great. I see them, I'm probably half of those impressions in each of these, to be honest, and I share, right? But the quality of the post is extraordinary, but that's a really small number of followers. So I'm just wondering, like, as we're moving forward, how are you, what are your goals to increase more, the actual followers, not just impressions? And how do we do that? Commissioner Zhang and I have been making rounds with our cities, and we heard almost 100% of our meetings where there was a frustration of lack of communication between the county and the cities. And it's because we post our stuff static, expecting people to come to us. as opposed to going to them and feeding them was kind of, they're like, we don't have time to come see what you're doing. Why don't you tell us what you're doing, right? And that's different. And especially when it comes to social media, this requires someone to come to you in some way. So how are we pushing this to our, every one of our cities have the same social media. They all have newsletters, they all have websites. How are we pushing forward? I don't see in any of the, kind of outline and structure and the positions you've laid out, direct communication with our cities. We have 19 of them and they want that communication between us and them. And I'm a little concerned with the way the staff is broken down by service team, that service teams are, in some ways, everyone's doing great on building their thing, but it's not getting pushed to the people who need it in that way. So I just wanted to raise that because that was a huge concern that we heard over and over and over with all of them. Like we all have our own media person. All they have to do is send it to them and then we'll post it too, or let's cross pollinate or send an email and they'll put it right into their newsletter. So just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Appreciate your comment. Director Lindsay?
Yeah,
we'll continue with these questions, then you can address them.
Great.
So the
Yeah.
numbers that are
Mhm.
here are, likes per year, per what? I mean, or maybe you said that and I just didn't pay attention.
So the figures that we have up, thank you, Commissioner, for your question. The figures that we have up are enterprise-wide social media metrics for 2023,
Okay.
broken down by platform. So on Facebook, we had 12,677 likes, and we had a reach of 1.7 million people, which means that we reached 1.7 million unique individuals with our post on Facebook. On Instagram, we have 4,376 followers, and we had just over 130,000 impressions. On Twitter and X, we have a total of just over 13,000 followers. And again, we had over just shy of 750,000 impressions on Twitter/X. On LinkedIn, we have a total of just over 14,000 followers with just under 490,000 impressions and this is across the year 2023.
And just a follow-up to that, is there a reason? Impressions, it sounds like impressions are not the best measure. Is there a reason that we can't do reach on why we can't have the same metrics?
Thank you for your question. It depends on what we're trying to measure, and each of the different platforms that we have different ways of providing the metrics. And so impression is one of the ways in which it cuts across all the different platforms. And so we focus on that as part of our metrics. But I do agree with you that focusing on engagement and reach is another metric that we should highlight. And we do focus on those as well.
Thank you.
I know I'm gonna let you, Director Lindsay, respond, but I know I have Commissioner Ortega and then Commissioner Moran. So do you want to just hear all the questions and then you can, because I know that Commissioner Martin brought up a point. What's your preference?
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. Perhaps I can start answering some of the questions and then take more questions.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. I love all of the engagement, so thank you. So I have some notes, so hopefully I have them all. So Commissioner Martinson, thank you for the questions. How to increase engagement, and Deputy Enduro started to answer some of that, but I'd love to build on her answer. So we do have a dedicated digital strategist working on social media, and we would have loved to ask for an additional digital person, but when we looked at our budget and the biggest gaps, those were the ones that we put forward. And so just wanted to name, we're always recognizing we can grow in different areas, but those were the areas we didn't have anybody in. So we do have a digital person. who's very talented. And we recognize that there's ways that we can grow, and we are working in those areas. So when we have posts, we can tag our partners so that they're aware the content is there, so that they can push it out on their platforms. We can finish a campaign and create a toolkit. So let's say we've done something with Director Becker's team, and Workforce always has a lot of partners. So then we can create the creative pieces or assets in a toolkit, and then we email it over to them, and then those partners can get it on their social and their newsletters in the different channels that they might have. We also can definitely reach out to the cities more and do more in that area. And I think that's all of our different team members can help us with that work. It's an area that there's just growth in that we haven't maybe had the capacity, but with more positions, everybody will have a little bit more capacity is our hope. There's also a reality that there are certain folks that we want to reach as a county. We are the most diverse county that might not be subscribing to government social media. And so when we have the opportunity to work with departments who have a budget, we're able to go beyond the county channels. And so we can buy advertisements for as little as $25. And then those advertisements go in folks' social feeds. As Deputy Director Andrew said, sometimes the ad might pop up 5 times in your feed, whether or not you're subscribing to the county channels. We can do that in multiple languages. We can do it in geographic areas. So if we have a particular job fair that's going to be in a certain area within the county, and we're trying to reach youth, we might pick certain platforms. If we're trying to reach businesses, we might pick LinkedIn as a different platform. So that's another way that maybe doesn't increase our channels, but still lets us reach people on social beyond our channels and meeting them where they are. So we have a lot of different ways that we're always trying to grow and work on. I'm gonna pause there. And then Commissioner Reinhardt, Commissioner McGuire, or Commissioner Moran, excuse me, McGuire, yes, and Moran, and Reinhardt, and everyone.
That's fine, yeah.
My apologies. You asked about engagement, and Deputy Director Enduro shared that, each platform does measure that differently. Another thing that did just take place in 2023 is Meta changed the way that they track engagement. So if you looked at our engagement from 22 to 2023, we wouldn't be able to give you numbers as an apples to apples comparison. And so we didn't necessarily want to put those numbers up there because it wouldn't actually tell the proper story. Our hope is that Meta and some of the other social that we work with will land on a tracking that they want to stay consistent with. So in the future, when we come and give you the next update, we can compare 23 to 24. But right now they keep changing things, which doesn't allow us to do a consistent tracking. It's the same issue for our open data portal. We can't, it just doesn't allow us this like history of tracking because things keep changing. So I wanted to name that as well, because that was a very good question. Thank you.
Yeah, that Commissioner Ortega and then Commissioner Moran. So we'll start.
First of all, Rose, I think that, thank you. You do a good job of trying to connect with the different commissioners on a regular basis. You usually ask me, to give you helpful hints, and be honest with you, I get busy with so many other things, I don't think I've been that helpful. But just to piggyback on Trista's point, just how we connect with cities, how do we connect with our nonprofits, especially in communities of colors? I've made a couple of site visits in the last couple of months to nonprofits. And while we do, I think, a good job in terms of it's, especially since COVID, in terms of connecting with those communities, you don't have an ongoing mechanism. And it would help us a lot in terms of navigation of services as we change services and we get resources from the state. it amazed me. It amazed me that they were out of the loop in terms of, so there has to be a way, I mean, this is a great tool. Cause we cannot people power this communications department can help us. Will help them at least know what's going on so they could ask questions. The expectation that they gotta connect with us is contradicts everything we say and we wanna do. So how do we flip that around? Because I was just surprised that many of our nonprofits, I mean, they're not connected to some of the very things we're here and talking about in terms of services. And they're the very organizations that we need in our loop to reach out to these communities. And we do, but not on a broad scale. So I just wanted to give my piggyback on Chris's point. Whatever we do with the cities, we could do with our key nonprofits in different communities.
Yeah, so what do you think? And we're in a workshop here, so I think we're all getting it's okay. You're doing great at the protocol. You don't have to recognize me every time. And I think we'll just go to first names now. I mean, we've been doing titles, which I appreciate, but in a workshop, we'll just, we'll make it more we'll make it just more, flowing, right? So, yeah. So thank you though for doing all the protocol, but you don't need to recognize through the chair at this point. I will direct the meeting, but so Rose, if you want to answer, Raphael, we're gonna all be in first names.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm ready to quite.
Whatever you're comfortable with, I just didn't want us to get too wrapped up because it's a workshop, so yeah.
I appreciate that question. It's a really good question. So communications and engagement are sister disciplines, right? They work really well together, but they are different disciplines. And so communications, we're able to work with departments when they come to us again with their goals, their campaigns, their initiatives, and we put a comprehensive campaign together. And a lot of times part of that campaign is really working with partners. And again, to go to Workforce Solutions or public health, like they have really established partners, and we can help create educational materials, creative assets, but then we would turn back to that partner who has the relationship, and they would bring those materials and assets to their partners. Now, at the county, we have a real opportunity to take the way that we do engagement today and bring it to another level, and take what you're talking about and have maybe a co-located engagement area that can be ongoing, having those relationships and conversations and asking different organizations, what do you need from the county? What are you hearing from the county? This is what the county would like to tell you. I would say that would be more an engagement department versus a communications department, and we would work together. So I think there's opportunity to build and grow a lot of that at the county, because kind of right now engagement's done department by department.
But if I take, if I look at what our navigators do in terms of services, okay, a lot of those nonprofits have the personnel to move forward. What they don't have is the information. So to me, it's communication. We've already engaged with these nonprofits. They know who we are, but it just surprised me. And the expectation even by me was, you're big enough and sophisticated enough to come to us. But they're like everybody else. They're handling 100 different things. And so I'm saying we need to go to them. So it's a very simple thing. It's like affordable housing. We have these HRA, we have these services now. People could come in for loans. How do we get that to those organizations? A brochure is fine, all of that is fine, but it's just moving that one more step, and how do we get it into their communication channels, establishing with them exactly what, Trista was saying, they have folks. But how do we on a consistent basis? Keep saying, because then they've got it's like we're an information and referral service. Then their workers could say, oh, we go here to get these resources.
I think part of the
Trista,
problem is that we have dispersed things to every department. So the direct public relations between our, our government body with other nonprofits or government bodies is now no one's job. Right?
Here's
So
that.
each engagement person is supposed to be like, oh yeah, I forgot to call the mayor of X, Y, and Z or the city council. And so because everyone's just like, oh, I'm working with Plaza Latina on this one project and no one has thought about the local electeds, the local officials, the people around. And it's because we've dispersed, each department doing their own social media, their own campaigns, that it's then no one's job to think. And I'm saying this because it's bit us up 3 times this year as electeds on different things. Like we thought information was going out on our legislative platform, for instance, to communities. Right, until it suddenly we have a bill up the Capitol, they're like, wait a minute, we didn't know this, right? And we're like, well, we do all these public meetings, we do this thing, but it's actually no one's. And so that's why it's fresh on our minds, is to think about, we can't say, oh, that's engagement, that's communication, and maybe it isn't in the communication, but now we're saying it out loud at this meeting so that we can say, that maybe this is we need someone's or whatever on your checklist of, as we're doing this, making a campaign, how do we communicate with local governments, but outside of Ramsey County, or nonprofits outside of Ramsey County? Or if we have a public relations specialist, that's a typical job duty of public relations, to make sure they're saying every campaign they're looking to say, has this been pushed to other government agencies or nonprofits?
And you're saying outside of Ramsey County .org, but within
Right.
Ramsey County, the
Yes.
cities within
Yes, yes,
Ramsey
yes.
County.
Yeah,
Right,
right,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, just to say for the record, yeah.
Yes,
Karen.
it's hard not to say, Madam Chair.
I know. We can do it, but I won't get,
Yeah, okay.
whatever you feel comfortable.
I just wanted to go back for just a couple of years to where we, and I think some of you here at the table will remember a time when we had one communications person for the entire county. That wasn't that long ago. And then we, hired John Sickland, who came in and brought communications together and made it more of a county-wide effort that works definitely with the different departments. And shortly after, we were able to centralize all of this work, COVID hit. And we really are still coming out of that crisis way of dealing with communications. We were able to get the 3 new positions. And trust me, Rose did ask for 4. But we felt that, we needed to do some things within the service team. But I think with those new positions and having conversations like this, we're going to be able to advance even farther. You have talked, Trista, about the pace at which we have been working over the past few years. We haven't really concluded that pace yet.
Right.
We're still, keeping up with that pace. But I do think having these conversations and also the new positions that we have will help us to advance our communications and public relations muscles, frankly.
And I really appreciate that. I mean, I do a newsletter, which is how I know that some, my commissioners or my council members and mayors get some information from Ramsey County, but I'm sure they're not sharing it with their news people. I mean, that's not getting out to everybody. And so these are such good questions. I appreciate talking about how we're connecting with our cities, which would be a really good, I don't think too complicated to make sure that their media can put out our, can share all of our stuff. But Rena's been waiting patiently.
Yeah.
And So I'm listening, right? Because I know I'm personally trying to figure this out, right? And I say that because I try to be on social media and not so much because it's work. It just takes a lot of time. But recently I added like another Ramsey County Facebook page. And someone said, how many pages do you have, Rena? But I have one, I'll run for election. That can't be saying that's running for while you're in office. But so I created a new Ramsey County Facebook page. And then I tried to attach them to all the other ones, like the Instagram and things like that. And so, so what I did was that on my personal page, where I have a bigger number of people, I invited people from that page over to my county page, right? I've did it like a couple of times. It is not happening. People are not moving over.
Yeah.
They're not
Right.
going to my county pages for whatever reason, right? And so I say I'm listening because it's a lot of work. It's inundated, right? And it's a lot. And so how we do that, I was sitting here like, okay, I do a newsletter. You know, I'm like, I want every Ramsey County legislator to have access to my newsletter. They should be part of my newsletter, right? And hopefully they will share, or at least be informed. So I don't know, you know, I'm just saying, I'm listening because it's a lot, it's inundated, you know, you can only spend so much of your time going to different spaces. And how do you be the most effective in doing that to reaching the member? I mean, do you, you know, add, you know, all the city's administrators onto, so they can get access to the page, right? I don't know where they look because they're busy. I don't know what that looks like or how we do that. Or, you know, what are we trying to do? The goal is what are we trying to get out of that? Whether they hit or not, what information are we trying to get to them and have them to respond back to us on? And what all do they need or not need? Because, you know, I don't want everything. Please don't send me everything. I don't want everything. But what are the things of interest that you know a certain city or that we want, whether it's HRA, whether it's our legislative agenda, that we're trying to share with them, that is informational for them to have and know.
I wonder if, Joanna, when the regional, you know, the city managers and the county manager meet, or, you know, I don't know how often you all meet, but when you do, if one time you could bring communications as a guest so that you can make those direct, you know, human to human connections. And so that way they know it's available.
We can for sure do that, and I'm happy to follow up with the team. I think the meetings fell to twice a year.
Okay.
And they're a little more kind of countywide, citywide issues, but I also know that there have been some topic specific meetings that have occurred with city administrators. So I'm happy to explore with the team how best to approach that.
Thanks.
And Rena's brought up a great point, and then I'll call on you, Victoria, about the newsletters. So I've got all the legislators on my list too. So they're probably getting a lot of newsletters, but, which is fine. But it does seem like they should get an official legislative newsletter from us. So I'm just adding that to the.
Well, the legislators do.
Oh, do they?
But,
Okay.
like, for instance, our city
Do they?
is, you know, we do a bunch of internal stuff,
Yeah.
but sometimes we don't go to them to say, what's on your agenda? Where are there overlaps? Where are there concerns?
yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's just one example. It isn't just that. There are other areas where they're like, we didn't even know you had a new entrepreneurs program at the county. We have entrepreneurs in our community. How can we connect them, right? And we're like, we feel like we're putting all of our stuff out, but it's
Right.
our
Yeah.
stuff, and we're asking
And,
people
and
to
so
come.
do we do a regular legislative newsletter to our legislators?
Not a newsletter.
No, but
not
do we do
a-
an email to our
Yeah.
legislators?
Well, not,
Okay.
yes and
Yeah.
no. I mean, they all get the legislative agenda ahead of time, and then we have
Okay,
periodic
but we don't do a
meetings.
periodic.
But they
yeah.
also don't read
Yeah,
newsletters.
right. I'm just curious if there was any, yeah.
Mary Jo, I wanted to
Yeah.
just also add that I recently was, someone I follow on social media was talking about how much time it takes.
Oh, right.
And this person started in 2004, something like that. And today now has 10 million followers. It takes a long time to build this up. And our digital person, I believe, just was hired
our digital person, Panel Laura, was actually with the county for 9
Mhm.
years, used to support libraries and then took the role on as digital specialist. And so just did that transition at the beginning of the year. So, and thank you for bringing that up. I think sometimes there is, because we all have social, most of us have social media, we think, oh, I took a picture, I posted it, I wrote a caption, I'm done. And that's not how we do it for an organization. We have software and tools behind the scenes, and I apologize if I'm walking in your notes. Where we are analyzing algorithms, we are figuring out who's on when, and we're doing this for, 30 different departments. And so if human resources gives us postings for job openings, we might book 2 weeks out in advance and say, okay, we're putting the jobs on Friday afternoons because that's when we know they're gonna do best. We're gonna put the things for parks at this time and libraries for this time. So somebody just calls us up and says, I'd like to post something right now. That actually creates quite a shuffle for us because we have to reschedule everything else. And we're not just, taking a picture of, I take a lot of pictures of my cute dog. I'm not taking a picture of my cute dog and posting it. We're really trying to make sure the photo is representative of the community, of the program, the captions right, and all of that could take a couple hours or much longer. I'm sure Anna's back there shaking her head saying much longer to put together and then book in the right times. And then each platform has a different audience, a different size graphic. And so all of this is the work that's going on behind the curtain, as they say. So thank you for bringing that up. And I know you were going to bring that up.
We'll let you talk about it, but Victoria
I
has a
just want
question,
to make
and
sure
then
that I
we'll
think
let
it'd
you
be a
talk a
good
little more,
idea
and
to
then,
have a presentation before the Ramsey County League of Local Governments. Because it's the school districts, it's the city councils, it's township board and others, and making sure that they've got that connection. Because to open it up, it has to go both ways. But that's one place that it would be, you'd get a lot of folks at one point. But honestly, the League of Local Governments, if they had as part of their agenda, had a communications update from the county, I think that would be good on every agenda.
perfect.
Yeah.
I'm actually wondering more if it's something of a community of practice with communications professionals in Ramsey County.
Yeah.
The mayor doesn't need to know about the posts, it's ever doing communications.
Exactly.
In the city, and how are our communications professionals working with others in Ramsey County, not just. I mean, city school districts, of course, but I think there's a lot of other organizations, and as we think about how we connect with community and who are those trusted messengers, being able to collab with those organizations through some sort of, whether it's a monthly community of practice where folks are able to share out kind of priorities might be helpful. Also just curious, in terms, different social medias have very different platforms and demographics. I actually think this is season, because I don't think, a lot of people don't even know what county they live in, but they
Yeah.
actually follow their
That's
county
true.
social media. It's great. I'm wondering just in terms of, the department is, now that you've got more capacity, has there been any exploration of whether, you would expand the county's digital profile to either Threads or TikTok? I know for the youths, it's TikTok, but it's also a place where video content plays well and can also transfer to other platforms and be shared across. But just thinking the more cross sharing opportunities and how we can reach people who don't use these but might use others.
We are building capacity. So I just wanted to
Yeah,
make
fair
that
enough, fair enough.
clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say on TikTok, I think IAS will have a harder
Yeah, I
time
was
if we
gonna
go
say
there.
that.
So
Our
I don't think
privacy
that's
won't
an
let us
option.
do it.
So,
But yeah. So-
Commissioner Farland, thank you for that question. Yes, we are in the process of hiring the new position, so we don't quite have that additional capacity yet. TikTok's really different. The content that we currently have and we generate for the other platforms, oftentimes we can alter it and make it so it will perform on the other platforms. TikTok's completely different, right? We can't alter content and put it in TikTok and have it perform, because that platform's all about trends and dances and fun things like that. And for us to show up in that space and be successful and not show up and be kind of like, oh, hi, government, what are you doing here? We would really need a full-time additional position, just creating, following the trends, creating videos. You know, I will give a huge shout out to my former colleague at the city of Minneapolis. He did so many creative ideas, but you're out there filming, right? So if you're taking a street sweeper and having a little Roomba go alongside of it to make this fun video about street sweeping, you're out shooting for several hours.
Right.
And that's several hours of content that you're not getting the opioids video out there. You're not getting the bail reform video out there. You're making choices if you don't have multiple staff. So while I would really love to explore it, we would have to make some additional investments, or other things might get sacrificed that I don't think we are at a point where we could do that. So definitely open to future conversations with resources
Yeah, it's
included.
that push and pull between, we need the engagement,
Mhm.
and we need quality content, and how much do you sacrifice in terms of, are there some more entertainment value posts that get more followers and get it in people's feeds more because people like share it, whatever, that then there are more people that are going to see that opioid video when you do post it. So it's that push pull and thinking through the like overall engagement strategies. But that's also something we're working, another way to do that is the cross engagement with other organizations, with a community of practice with other organizations in the Ramsey County might be another means of broadening that out.
And Commissioner Feather, and commissioners, we're also able to do, when we do get a little budget, we're able to do exciting things like work with micro influencers. So it doesn't have to be us standing up TikTok and running TikTok, but we can be paying local community members through a vendor who does all of the background checking and making sure their feeds don't say something about like, I use lots of plastic, and then later on, we have a video about recycling, right? Got to check all those things out. But then and we have some examples later in our campaign of our presentation about micro users. So we can do some of these trends without necessarily having to own all of the accounts. So there's opportunity for both and always.
Well, and even, you know, is this an opportunity to leverage like our Youth Lens 360
Yeah.
contract? Do some of our YACA folks wanna like talk about the work they're doing and filming it with Youth Lens and putting it out that way as like real, like I'm in here, I'm doing it, look at all this. I got to sit on a Zamboni or whatever it is, that's fun and can like let folks know what we do in those other ways. I do not have a TikTok, so I'm not suggesting I do that.
We were gonna sign you up first.
Victoria,
I just
then we're gonna let.
realized what the clock says.
Yeah. we need to
I
let 'em
cannot
do-
imagine I think we're gonna have to do a second workshop on this because it's so important. We haven't,
We can do that.
so I just wanted to make sure that,
Oh, thanks.
I
yeah,
looked at the
it's-
clock and went, that
clock
can't
is
be right.
behind me, yeah.
But anyway,
Right, well, we were talking about whether we should do questions before or after, and I
I
said,
know.
you know, or should we get through the presentation? Well, why don't you? Yes, I mean, we'll go till noon, but thank you for giving us
Yeah.
the time check. Well, I guess you all tell me, when do we go till? What are we all thinking? How much,
gives the
how
natural
long will it be?
within
Yeah,
this-
what do you,
within
what
the
do you,
presentation.
what do you, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a
Hmm.
boards meeting or something.
Yeah, do you,
No,
I
I
mean,
can
we
stay
could, if we
longer.
could go a little
Yeah.
longer, if we could go a little longer, we, I
I'm
think.
gonna try to go to 12:15.
Yeah, we could, I mean, I can,
Okay.
how's the
Okay,
board? I can go till
Yeah,
12:15.
Go.
Yeah, but you have to be out of here by noon. But the rest of us
Let's aim
can
to wrap
go.
it up by 12:15.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
all right.
And then we can come back for other stuff.
We'll
what
talk
do you-
fast.
So real quick, before I pass it over to Director Lindsay to continue, I wanted to highlight one other metric that we track, which is sentiments. And I think this is really important when we post some of our content, we have a lot of residents, and a big shout out to our residents who are super informed and super engaged. They are when we have especially controversial content, sometimes will be there. But we do find that when an individual from the community posts something that is probably not favorable, we have our residents who are informed correcting this other resident and providing more information. So we track all that, but we also have our social media team person. Who does an amazing job of sharing the comments with the different departments and making sure that we are responding in a timely manner, and all those work towards uplifting or changing the algorithm in our favor. And so that leads us to having more content on more people's feeds, and that just raises our profile a little bit more. So with that, I'll hand it over to Director Lindsay to take us through the open data portal.
And just one thing I would like to build is that the more campaigns we're doing in multiple languages, the more comments we're getting in multiple languages asking questions. And so that's been really great to see residents feeling comfortable reaching out through social media and asking questions about everything from winter warming space to housing resources to all sorts of things that we then work to see that we get those answers as quickly as possible to folks. So that's been a great seeing that change. Uh-oh, I've lost the ability to click through again.
Did I do it?
Jackie will be here for us.
Right.
Meanwhile, I know the
There we
next
go.
slide is, you got it. I was warned at the beginning of the presentation to not touch anything below me. There's some wires here, so I'm very careful of what I touch. So just sharing that. So our next is the open data portal, which was launched in 2017. As Deputy County Manager Francois shared, it is award-winning. This is great. It's in the Communications and Public Relations Department, because not only are we able to share the data, but we're able to share the stories along with the data that really make this accessible for community. Folks can compare information. We can have our performance management information out there. On the slide in front of you, we have some notable dashboards from 2023, including the top 3 dashboards that were viewed, and then some new dashboards that are up and coming. So just to give you an idea, the dispatch incident dashboard had nearly 5,000 views. The COVID-19 dashboard, about 3,500, and the FAS dashboard, nearly 6,000 views on that dashboard. All right, media relations is an area that we are continuing to grow. We had several really large press conferences last year, including being invited by the administration to partner on a couple of very large press conferences during the NACO event and for WIC. So we have one of those photos there. Additionally, we worked with one of our new strategic communications vendors, New Publica, to come in and do a training for over 100 staff folks who are very likely to be interviewed or engaged with the media, so that they had that training, so that should they be called upon, of course, they always come to the Communications and Public Relations Department first, but that they felt that they had the solid foundations to be successful in those media interviews. Additionally, a couple other things I'd like to highlight is we've worked with policy and planning, human resources, and our racial equity coordinators to come up with a draft of a crisis communications plan for traumatic events. In the past, when the county unfortunately experienced an event where maybe a crisis of a racialized nature, so let's say a Black community member was killed by a law enforcement agent, whether or not it was in Ramsey County, we didn't necessarily have a plan of how we were going to respond, who was going to respond. And this is impactful for not only community, but employees inside the county. And oftentimes we might turn to the employees who are most impacted and ask them, could you help write communications to support the other employees? So we have been working on a crisis communication plan that includes how does an employee raise up an event that they would like to be considered for a traumatic response? Who would respond? Would it be a countywide response, both internal to the organization and external to the public? Would it just be an internal response? Would a department just respond because it's more appropriate to a smaller group of impacted employees? And then how, before this even happens, do we build up our resiliency and capacity and community of care so that we all feel more equipped to respond? So I'm really grateful to be a part of this work, and that plan will be coming forward this year. All right, Eve, talk about some of our paid campaigns.
Thank you. So before I get into our paid campaigns, and as Rose has mentioned, when one of our departments comes to us for support with communication, there's a lot of work that goes into the back end to create a comprehensive communication strategy for them. And so one of the ways that we support them is when we publish the content on our own social media, we are generating what we call organic reach. However, we also provide guidance on different platforms, the different times that we need to post. And we also make recommendations on if the department has a budget, we also make recommendations and suggest that we adopt a paid campaign. So in 2023, the paid campaigns that we worked on with one of our strategic partners, Meter, we had 31 campaigns that we worked on. This was a spend of just over $450,000. And a good key metric up there is that over 52% of the spend was on community and cultural media. So we really are intentionally working to reach our communities and our residents where they are in the media that they consume in the most appropriate way for them to consume that media. And that was about $237,000. In terms of the overall total impressions that we received, this was just under 80,000 impressions with a total click-through rate of 263,000. And I'm sure you're probably asking, what does that mean in terms of, is that good, is that bad? If you're looking at it from a commercial perspective, then the total clicks against the total impressions is not that great. But from a government perspective, we're saying this amounts to about 33%, 0.33% of clicks, which is actually pretty good. So that just gives us some grounding on those metrics. So real quick, I'll walk you through some of the paid campaigns, and it will just show how we are able to utilize small budgets to reach different audiences, but as well as different components. As we keep on building, you will see campaigns that are large and where we've spent quite a bit of investment in them. So the first campaign is the Inclusive Hiring campaign. And this was a digital-only campaign that utilized a really small budget. And it was really targeted at HR professionals. And we only had this on LinkedIn. And this gives you an example of a really perfectly targeted campaign because we spent a couple $100, but we had overall impressions of over 200,000. And the next one is the 911 telecommuters recruitment campaign. And this was part of our emergency management campaign. And this was really to drive recruitment of telecommunicators. It had a digital component. And we also used radio as a trusted source of communication. The next campaign is the winter warming campaign. And this is very close to my heart because I worked on this with the housing stability team. And this was a campaign where we really did see the humanness of the media come through in a really positive way. We got a lot of goodwill from our media partners through free public service announcements, and the majority of the campaign was actually driven by free media that we received from our partners. So a big thank you to all our media partners for supporting us with this. We did utilize some digital, And then we had some out of home as well, which was whether it was billboards, it was vans, our partners at Metro Transit, at bus shelters. And so we could really meet the communities where they were and really share this really important message to individuals. And then we have a huge campaign through the Ramsey Recycles campaign. And this is a campaign where we used a full array of media in addition to digital. And we used community media. We had materials in different languages, Spanish and Hmong. And we also had direct mailers, which was a huge component of the campaign because education was really important. And here we used micro-influencers as Director Rose talked about. We also used these micro-influencers who shared content, and you can see that on the right side of your screen. They shared our content and amplified the content that we had. The campaign was backed by a great media budget, and that campaign saw us at least achieve over 54 million impressions. So that was a great campaign. And finally, the Recycling Exists campaign. And so we highlight this campaign because it brought together 6 different counties. And each of these counties had their own unique media mix. And obviously this media mix was based on their own objectives within their own counties. And the campaign had a Spanish component as well. And social media was used to leverage the whimsical and fun nature of the campaign and to deliver a message in a really fun manner.
And I believe this one also got earned media where they were coming and asking to interview us about the collaborative nature of the campaign across all of the different counties.
Absolutely.
This campaign, I'll just say, if you don't know anything about Ramsey County, you know that we recycle because it is everywhere.
And we got money to do that from somewhere, from our
Arnie board.
Arnie board, right?
Yeah.
It's not levy, it's on the,
Joint activity.
joint activity.
Thank you. So we are super intentional about increasing our diversity and inclusion and meeting our residents where they are. So this slide that you see here, it represents the current list of minority and women-owned media that we work with. And this list is evolving daily. And we're adding to it every single day with the different campaigns that we work on. And then other than just being strategic and data-driven as a department, one of the key things that we're extremely intentional about is being representative of our communities and having equity at the core of everything that we do. So thank you, and I'll hand it back to Director Lindsay.
Thank you, Dr. Anduro. The budget that Communications and Public Relations has, we don't have the opportunity to do a lot of our own buys because our budget is mainly staff. And so for us, it's critically important that we have the opportunity when we work with other departments to ensure that we are supporting the investment back in local businesses, minority and women-owned businesses. So as Deputy Director Anduro said, we're always looking for ways to expand the businesses, the women, the minority-owned businesses that we are working with. And so while we have this list before us, it's always growing. Many of the micro-influencers that we work with aren't even on there. And so that's really a value of ours. While we can't necessarily make the direct buy ourselves because of the nature of our work, we're always thinking about it. A few other highlights from 2023. We've mentioned it a few times today. We formally had a couple strategic communications partners. We did a competitive RFP and expanded that list so that, again, we could meet community where they are. One example is we were able to work with New Publica, a minority-owned firm, to do our media relations training. Another project that we were proud of this year is it came to our attention that our Oromo language hub, the translations were not fully accurate. Community did share with us that there was some issues there. So we quickly worked with one of the trusted messengers that we knew had community confidence and had that Oromo language hub looked at and refreshed and got that back out into the community. We are having conversations with other areas across the organization that work with language access to see how we can, in addition to having a multi-step verification from our language vendors, how can we have a verification step within the county? So we're looking at seeing how we can get that in the future as well, because that's critically important to have layers of verification so our translations are correct. And then, as you probably all saw before you when you walked in, got some buttons on the table. We expanded our outreach toolkit. So over 51 requests of our outreach materials from 16 departments. So that is branded Ramsey County table cover. We now have a tent, we have a backdrop, we have some feather banners. We know that sometimes coming up to government when you're at an outreach event can be a little intimidating. And so we wanted to make it more fun and more accessible. And so we got materials in multiple languages, buttons that people often put on their bags or their backpacks. And all of the buttons, if you look closely, actually highlight the language hubs that we have on the website, where on our website, we have language pages that are manually translated of content from our website, where folks can go and get that content in the language of their choice. So we always do have the Google Translate feature, but these are the manually translated by human folks. So wanted to share those with you all today, and they can be checked out when any staff member, any department is going to Pride or Juneteenth or National Night Out, all of the fun events that we go to throughout the summer months.
And I just want to comment that manual translation is really appreciated by people.
Thank you.
Worth the effort.
All right. We have a few minutes left, so we're gonna dive into major projects because there's some big ones we want to share with you. The first one we mentioned when we talked about the new website position is that we are needing to re-platform the Ramsey County public website and the intranet. So truly, the website is our digital front door. We have over 7.7 million page views every year, and that's from 3.9 million visitors. So sometimes residents might only interact with our website. They'll find what they need and are able to go on with their business. Sometimes they go to the website first to figure out, is the building I'm going to open? Or how do I get to that building where I'm going to? And so really making sure our website is user-friendly, functional, up-to-date is critically important. The original intranet and public website were launched in 2015 and 2016. And then during the pandemic, the county did do a refresh, and at that time made a decision with everything else going on that we would do the re-platform in the future. The future is now. And we need to do that refresh by 2025 because Drupal 7, the platform we're on, and many other county governments and agencies are on, will just no longer be supported. They're already, I believe, up to Drupal 10. So there's been several iterations in between. So I want to give a thanks to Chief Information Officer and Director of Information Services, Chetan Ganatra, and his team from IS for being really good partners with us. Megan Fournier, who's in the room today, and lots of other folks have been helping as we looked at the data from the original website, all the community engagement data, all the input from departments, and we picked that up and built on that market research process. We talked to other counties, other governments, we talked to folks in the service center, and to figure out what is working as we conducted this RFP process. Then we posted that RFP in November. And right now in this moment, we are just about to select our vendor. So we are focused on ensuring in November 2025, all of the functions, all of the features that we love, and many other governments, when we met with them, are like, your website's really, really good. Why are you replatforming it? And we're like, well, we want to make sure we have it in 2025. So all those functions and features, we want to make sure we have them in 2025. We have to manually move between the public and the internal website about 10,000 pages, as well as PDFs, which we would ideally like to move those PDFs to be pages because they're not as accessible for screen readers and other devices. Being on the page is more accessible. And so our primary goal is this seamless transition with this new vendor by 2025, while keeping in mind enhancements beyond 2025. Because we realize technology is always changing, always fluid, and we want to remain, usable beyond 25. We want to look at new plugins and features, but that would be once we get everything migrated and moved, kind of looking at those enhancements. So this is kind of one of our big projects that will impact everybody in the county for the coming 2 years.
Okay, and then we'll take a question, and then you have like a couple minutes to talk about the radio. Right? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quick question
Okay.
about the new website. Will it have the capability for like an audio version, like where you click a button and it can read what the page says?
Thank you.
And I'm asking specifically because, of the Hmong language that, not many people can read it to, even the elders. Because it's a newer language. And as we're trying to figure out, the conversations around voting access, that's actually where we need to make it accessible. Because even if we translate it, folks can still access that information. And I believe that's also similar for like the Somali community too.
And they're visually impaired.
Oh, yes.
Commissioner
Yeah.
McGuire, Commissioner Zhang, great question. We are still in the final conversations with our top vendors. So I can't talk about all the specific features at this point in time, but we know that's a very important feature. So we'll be able to come back to you with more detailed answers once we move past the final kind of contracting stage.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I would just imagine that it works similar to like, I don't know, like when you read articles from NPR and they have like the audio piece, but then everything's transcribed. So it's just something similar like that. That would make it a lot more accessible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
And our other new program. So this is a partnership where we're very grateful to public health. It builds off the Trusted Messengers program and leveraging the Racial Equity and Community Engagement Response Team and American Rescue Plan, so research and ARPA funding. We are going to contract on existing community radio stations, and we are going to co-produce a radio program. So twice a month, we would have a Ramsey County employee go on as the host, bring Ramsey County staff, ideally in language, but we do recognize that we might not have all the guests be able to speak the language that we launch in. So then we would bring interpreters. And this would allow us to establish the relationship where listeners would know, okay, every month, these 2 dates at this time, Ramsey County is going to come on and talk about things like opioids, job fairs, housing resources, elections, budget, service center, all the topics that we release through our social media, through our newsletter, on our website, but in language in real time. So folks can call in and ask questions and they don't have to identify themselves, because sometimes that's a barrier with government right there. The shows can be recorded, and so then we can share the audio files out later. So if you couldn't tune in at 2 o'clock, let's say, we can keep sharing it out later. And the goal is to launch either in Spanish or Hmong, depending on the staff member we're able to hire. And then in year 2, next year, do the opposite, launch in the other language. And these 2 languages were identified based on looking at census data, school data, and who's coming into the service center and the supports that they're looking for. we also look to this program as an opportunity for community to tell us what they're wanting from the county, what shows and programs they want us to come on and bring. So we're really excited about this partnership. This also offers some equity when departments don't have a large budget and they come to us and they're like, we really need to get this out in community, but I don't have a budget. Before we were limited in channels, and this would be a new way we can get out in community when we necessarily don't have a budget dedicated to a paid advertising campaign.
So is it gonna be in English too, or no? Just Spanish or Hmong, and it's gonna be on what channel?
Well, we haven't entered the contracts
okay.
yet, just because we are in process of hiring the person.
Okay.
But there are some wonderful existing community partners in both Spanish radio and in Hmong radio that we would pilot with. And then my hope is based on what I know is going to be success, come back to all of you in the future to make it a permanent program for the county.
Okay, Rena.
Have you thought about doing this through a free media partnership with community-based organizations? I mean, like there are radio stations you can go on.
Yeah, right.
Right, in different language, and you can partner with someone because they want this information too. They
Right.
need this information, and it doesn't have to always be a paid media piece. It can be a partnership with community radio stations, community-based, media.
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. Right now it's a pilot that we're learning from. We do want it paid so that we're investing in the stations to offer their production experience, because our team aren't the radio producers. We will write the scripts, we'll book the guests, we'll book the interpreters. We are also looking for, in addition, some supports of public service announcements, being on standby if there's an emergency. Imagine a poor air quality day. We could call them and say, hey, can you run that PSA about poor air quality?
I think you can do this at free media. I think you do, because I would hate to just hire one Hmong or one Spanish person for 1 year. It's just that one community, right? I think you can be more impactful in this relationship piece here around media. I believe we can do this. And if you need some help in what that could look like, by the time that I don't have, I will offer to try to see what we can do in that arena.
When I left the city of Minneapolis, I actually had 5 programs in flight. So we did one in Oromo, Somali, Spanish, Hmong, and on KMOJ. And I have heard now they've launched one in the Native American community too. So I definitely agree with you that we should do it much more broad. They do take quite a bit of time to program, and I have been, let's say the show starts at 2 o'clock and I have received many a phone call at 1:55 or 2:15 and being like, the guest isn't here, the interpreter isn't here. And so we just want to start slowly, whatever station we go with, to make sure we really are being authentic and doing it correct, so that we aren't having community feel harmed where they expect Ramsey County to show up at a certain time and place and then we're not there. But there's lots of room to grow it. I'm just proposing a pilot, we learn from it, and then see where we can take it, like you're suggesting.
Well, and I think part of it too is, because it's a pilot, you want to make sure that you get it right and so that you can roll it out other areas. And I know that there is free media, but I think it's also important that we don't take advantage of the smaller radio stations. I mean, I think they should get paid as well. So combining it, but I would assume that we're going to use free media. We do now whenever we can, but there are some times that we pay for it. And so I wouldn't want to just rely on free media, but it is a part of the package, I would assume.
Well, not now.
And does that include like cable shows, like we have North Suburban Cable, they're always looking for content, like, please,
Yeah.
give us content. Okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
And if there's
Yeah, I
limits,
think,
Yeah, right.
I think, that question kind of goes to the earned, what is it, earned media, right? That, for our releases, does it go to the cultural communities or like to the folks who have shows to come to those press events?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Zhang. We do have, we're very intentional about building additional media distribution list for community and cultural media, and with the new media relations position, we want to go deeper. So not just here's a media advisory, we're doing this press conference, can you come? Recognizing that they might not have the same staffing model to get something on a Tuesday and show up on Wednesday. So we definitely want to build that. And this is something in addition to that. So trying to reach deeper into those communities, multiple different ways. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Did you have?
No.
Okay, so all right, and you have a couple other projects you're working on and.
Yep, this is our last slide, and just want to share, as we mentioned, the volunteer services program is in communications and public relations. We're very proud of this program. But we also want to take this to the next level, and the coordinator, Mike Lindsay, is in the room with us as well. And so if you're not familiar, I think you all are with the program. We administer the volunteer management software. We lead the volunteer service network across the organization. So there's like 17 different volunteer programs, but we offer that internal infrastructure and support. And so we really want to take this next year and make sure we have the right software, the right policies in place, best practices. And we're also looking at racial equity in volunteer services. Sometimes just even the words volunteer management could produce a barrier for people participating in volunteer opportunities. And so we want to make sure we're dismantling these inequities. We want to make sure that if folks are volunteering, they're having a super good experience, because this could be their first opportunity with Ramsey County that could lead to, maybe I want to work for Ramsey County. Maybe I want to be on a board or commission for Ramsey County. Maybe I want to do more. So we really see an opportunity to take this even further, build on all of the good work. The next item, the Guide to Services. This is a print publication. It's most often used at the service center. Folks really love it. The issue is once it's printed, it's outdated immediately. So we really want to take a look at it and see how we can combine that print piece people like to take home with QR codes or something to make it more digital so that we can keep it up to date. The moment it's printed, it doesn't become outdated. So we don't have all the answers, but we have this on our to-do list this year to work with the service center, work with navigators, work with departments to see how we can really get a new iteration of this. We'll be rolling out our refresh social media policy this year. And then, as we've mentioned, translations and interpretations are critically important. We currently use contracts that we're very grateful for at the state, but we are going to do a competitive request for proposal and bring those contracts in-house so we have those direct relationships with our translation and interpretation partners. And with that, as we've been talking throughout the presentation, I believe all of you follow, like, comment, and subscribe. But for those listening at home, we encourage you to follow, like, comment, and subscribe on all of the Ramsey County channels, and appreciate all the great questions today and helping us think about this work and how we can continue to take it to the next level to ensure that everybody is able to access the county and the county's services.
And share.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, as you know, there are a lot of questions, and we of course want everything to happen all the time to everyone, all faster and faster. So thank you for all your work. We really appreciate this. I'm gonna recommend we do have another workshop, in not too long. I mean, not too long, where we get an update, because we do have a lot of questions on how this is all gonna be done. And I think we all have ways we'd like to see our media and our public relations out there. And we want to be your partner. I mean, we are your partner in this. I mean, we are a very public face, and most of us do newsletters ourselves. So we'd like to be much more coordinated, I think, with your department. I mean, personally, I would. And so, anyway, I think we just, this is a great start. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you're doing a lot of work. And I think it's good for us to appreciate all that you are doing, because we, of course, just want to keep seeing more and more. So, thank you for everything you're doing. I think it's good for us to stay more connected so that we see everything that you're doing and can work with you on that. So with that, is there any Anybody else have any final? We really appreciate everyone
I'm
staying,
impressed.
everyone staying late.
Impressed
Thank
that
you
you
so
got
much
this.
for
Thank
all
you.
your work, and everybody in the audience. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We do, we appreciate everything you're doing.
Well, and I appreciate the fact that when we have to do something as commissioners, that you make it fun.
I agree, I like fun too.
Right? People are watching the YouTube videos because we're getting comments.
Oh, yeah.
So the YouTube videos are getting well played, so thank you for that.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good job, good job.
So, wow.